Okay, we'll let this come up here and see if we're good to go. Does anybody want to check? See if we're up? I could check.
Yeah, we're up.
Okay, we're up. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last Belmont video of the year. We've got Stars and Stripes Day, and we've got the first live stream in quite a while on this channel. I'm Road Warrior 627, otherwise known as Andrew, and I've got a bunch of guests with me tonight. We've got Sammy Roseman.
We're back, the OGs. Now, gonna hopefully pick some winners on Saturday, but you already know.
We've got Jack Sargent from Racing Rundown.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Andrew. Always a pleasure.
Delightful. Absolutely
yes,
delightful. For the first time in a while, let's welcome back JALEN SANTOS, everybody.
Good to be back. Been a while. Had 10 winners on Stephen Foster Day. Let's hope I can get at least a fraction of that.
Yeah, I hope we all can in some way. And eventually later we will be joined by Dennis TRUSTY as well to go over the 8th through the 11th races on the Saturday card. So we're going to get started here. There are, of course, no timestamps yet in the description because we're doing this live. We're going to talk about all, I was going to say 11 races, but we got 12. First post time, I think, is the normal time. Is that correct? Where's post time? Yes, 1:05. So, Jack, I'm going to let you start with the first race. We got 2-year-olds.
We got 2-year-olds, and this is another example of me looking at an entry and saying, "Geez, I'm old," because Elate's kid, Exhilarate, is in this race. The number 3 horse, part of a fascinating Belmont entry of 2-year-old fillies, both first-time starters. It seems like it's going to run through those two. I actually, just for the sake of the tote board, want to favor and will be favoring the 2, though, Magic Cross, who is Jose Lezcano. Just merely for that reason. We're going to have a little bit of fun on this. But wanted to point that out because it is fascinating, and it makes someone like me, and I'm sure you too, Andrew, feel old that we're seeing a horse that won the Alabama now 6 years ago, which, again, really old here, having a horse running at Belmont Park in 2023.
Most certainly does make me feel old, and this is only a third back of my way in racing. I started watching racing when I was 4 years old, so now I feel super old in here. But we're going to move on to Sammy. Sammy, who do you like in here?
Jack, you're forgetting me. I was watching racing back then.
True.
Yeah. There's nothing really interesting in this race. Obviously, Elite. This horse, just because of that, will be the favorite, but she's probably deserving favorite too. Gina Antonucci got a horse, which I guess makes sense because I think she's bringing a string to Saratoga, if I'm not mistaken. There's nothing. I don't really like the 6 at all because that was the race that Irad's horse won for Pletcher, the Tappet horse. Tappet winning at 5 furlongs in June is something you don't see actually a lot. Probably have it picked by Saturday, but there's not really much to this race. It's hard to trust Mott first out always, but you never know. I guess I'll give it to JALEN.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. Looking at this race, there's nothing that really jumps off the page to me. The 2 that stood out were the 3 Exhilarate, the daughter of Elate, and the 5 Dorothy's Dream with that classic pedigree, Derby winner always dreaming, out of a Ghost Zapper mare. Really nice pedigree there. Like you said, Sammy, when I first saw those 2, I kind of selected the 4 as an underneath pick, and either the 3 or the 5 as my top choices. But it's kind of hard to trust Belmont first time out, even with Junior Alvarado. Obviously, that great pedigree war front out of Elate, and Claiborne as the breeder on this horse. And I believe still the owner. I think it's a homebred for Claiborne. So, I mean, the 5 looks like it's more of a classic pedigree. You might want to go longer, Dorothy's Dream. But I think I am going to go with the 5 on top here with maybe the 3 and the 4 to use underneath.
If I could add
Yeah,
something, the one thing that would be interesting is the 7. If Saya sends, this horse might hold. That's
Yeah,
the interesting thing.
that is one thing I saw with Rudy Rodriguez, Motown out of the Elusive Quality mare. Something about this horse, I just didn't really take an attraction to this one.
yeah. Here's where I land in here. I probably agree with Jalen more than anyone else in here because I do like the 5 quite a lot in this race, and you would think in a race with 2 Bill Motts that I'd definitely be over one of them, especially probably the longer one. But this horse has got fast works coming into this race, this 5 horse, and I've really noticed this meet at Belmont that having the fast works for whatever reason is actually a bearer of good things to come, which it isn't always. This horse was entered, is also entered, I should say, the day before. So I kind of hope the horse doesn't run there and runs here instead. Maybe only as a main track only. I have no idea. I didn't really look at tomorrow's card yet. But this, if I had a top pick, I'd probably take the 5, and then I would kind of, yeah, I'd take one of the Motts in second, kind of fill out the triple with them, and then I would go to Rudy as a backup because Rudy does get horses ready first time out at a good rate. Yeah, I get why they're going to play the 6. You get the bullet workout. There's other fast works there. You got the one race into her already. Uh, yeah, it makes sense, but I'm going to try and beat that horse. Sean Bridgman is listed. Does he stay? I'm not sure. I guess we're going to have to find out.
Ride the horse.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
that 6 was probably my reserve play there. With I was running third, leading the way through really fast fractions last out, and then since then one workout, which was a very fast bullet workout, which you mentioned with the workout times, but I just didn't really like Sean Bridgman and Melanie Giddings over like Javier Castellano and John
yeah,
Terranova.
no way. Nah, not for me either. And you're going to get a very short price considering that's the horse that has the experience in the race. Moving on to race number 2, we've got a claimer here. Jack has already said he's not interested, and I really don't blame him in this race. But Sammy, you got anything in here?
Was this race moved to Parks because it might be just as bad as their claiming races? Looking at this race, the 4 would be a cinch, but the mile's a little sketchy with this horse because I think early in the meet, Linda Rice had a similar horse, and the horse just dropped out last stretch. I mean, this race is just brutal, dude. It's bad. I'll leave it to Jalen on this one.
Well, I was hoping I'd have a little more time there to scrolling through this. I mean, this hurts to look at. It really does hurt to look at. Like you said, the 4 would look like a cinch. I mean, a lot of wins, a lot of big wins, runs well. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of wins, only 3 career wins, but runs well, very familiar on this Naira claiming and allowance circuit. But the mile is pretty tough. 4 Drink the Wind with Linda Rice, but by More Than Ready out of Malibu Moon. I'm going to take the chance that this horse can get the mile just because I really don't see anything else good here or as good as the 4. So I'm just going to go with the 4 and say nothing else.
Yeah, this is a race where you really have to think about your life choices if you spend a lot on it. Uh, if I had to make a pick in here, I'd actually go with Noda's horse. This is a horse who has run, let's see, 3 times at the meet and 2 pretty good performances for a trainer that, let's face it, he doesn't have what he normally has this meet. And of course, the poster child for that is Rob Atras because he really didn't get his shipment. And I don't think Noda got his shipment either because neither of these guys, they're both very streaky trainers and they're both sucking during this meet. But this is one horse that has one of those 2 wins, and you get the other brother. from the one who's riding the favorite. So if I had to give you a top pick in here, I'd take the 5 just for the value's sake, but I don't want to waste money on this race. We've been following this horse down here, Zertz, for a little while. This horse doesn't really seem like you can get the job done in here either, unless he runs back to that one nice race earlier this year or even further back to last year. It would take something big for that to happen, but you do get a good rider in Dylan Davis. Race number 3, we're going back to the good stuff, or actually to the good stuff for the first time. The Widener Turf Course, 7 furlongs, maiden special. Jack, have at it. Do you have anybody in here?
I'm really singling on the 7 parties over here. Dylan Davis rides for Jorge Durrani. This is a filly who ran at first time Monmouth on Memorial Day weekend, going 5.5 furlongs. Was beaten 4.5 lengths there by a filly by the name of Lady Irvine, who was a next out winner just last weekend at Monmouth. But the thing I'm really singling in on is I mentioned that was a 5.5 furlong turf race, and so Party is Over is going to get the move up in trip here. And for a horse who made up a lot of ground toward the end of that race, she was coming from third last in that Monmouth allowance. I think that getting the move up in trip certainly isn't going to do her any detriment. Decent price on the morning line right now, but I'm really singling in on the move up in trip there. Also only has 1 start underneath her, and the horse who did beat her was a next out winner in pretty decent fashion. So a couple of reasons, primarily the trip, but also some of these horses are a bit more exposed than her, and also she does have decent back form from that first career start that she had. So 7 Party is Over is my horse that I'm singling in on in this spot.
Mr. Roseman?
I feel like Javier is the king of this. Whenever it comes down to horses, like, well, not more like over like 15, but like Javier is really good at getting horses to break their maiden about 14 starts or a couple starts after their career. Number 8. Move down, Andrew. I see they're scrolling up.
No, I'm live. I'm live on my screen. That's all that matters.
I was there on Belmont Day. She actually made up a lot of ground there. She was 4 wide. She chased, but Love the Shop was a pleasure horse. She's always been classy. I mean, that was her first win, but she's had a potential and a lot of hype around her. 7-2, probably be 3-1. I mean, this race is interesting though. It's a good field. I could see a lot of stuff. The one thing that was interesting, which doesn't make sense, is why is Joel riding the 6? I mean, do we know something does he know something that we don't know, or is he just riding the ride?
I don't know how much Joel knows at all, but that's a different story. Jalen?
Joel, don't even get me started on Joel. Example, I had this horse the other day. Horse starting to run, but nope, Joel puts the favor right on the rail, and the horse starts to fade down the stretch. Classic Joel. Or he'll beat you at the wire. You never know what you're gonna get with him. He might be in Long Island down the stretch, all the way on the beach, or he might be in Saratoga, or he might be in Belmont. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, this race is another tough one, just like the last race. One horse I looked at just off of the start was the one with Jose Lozcano, and Dutrow. I mean, British breeding, but the horse, if you look at the horse's speed figures, has gone down every start of his career, all on turf, tried different distances, nothing has really worked. Switches trainers, first start for Dutrow could be interesting. I mean, besides that, I don't see too much. I see the 7, like Jack said, but that's about it. I don't have too strong of an opinion on this race.
Yeah, this is a race where it makes more sense to spend money than the last race, but I still wouldn't get carried away. I'm going to play this race actually with both horses. At least I think it's probably both, unless someone else is. Yeah, I'm playing the 2 horses coming out of Monmouth. I'm playing the 5 for Camejo, who I believe accelerates at turf sprints. I think that's the best thing that he does. And I'm also going to play the 7 for all the reasons you guys outlined already. I'm gonna box those two with Belmont's favorite, who Jose Ortiz is riding, who looks like can at least be there at the wire. I'm never gonna play this horse to win at 2-1, but yeah, I'm gonna include defensively. But as far as who I want to get the win in here, I want it to be the 5 or the 7, and those two horses, particularly the 5, would play very well in a multi-race bet. So that's where I'm going in here. I'm gonna kind of just take a little shot, but do it with the minimum. Stick to a $1 exacta and a 50-cent triple. Try not to get carried away in here. Race number 4, we've got an allowance race on the main track. And this is another race that I'm not a fan of. And Jack, do you have anything to say other than this 6-horse down here?
Nope, I am no fun. It's the 6th, and I will not waste a penny on this race because if the 6 doesn't win, then something really stupid that I can't foresee happened.
Sammy?
No, that last race I could have used him last race when he lost 6-1, but Mark Cassidy had to be drooling when he saw this race was at 6 furlongs because 7 furlongs might be a little bit far for him. This race couldn't set up any better for him. It's a short field, 6 furlongs, get Jose Ortiz up. I mean, I just don't see how he gets beat here. He's not going to be 4-5. He might be lower than that in this field, and I really can't see anyone else beating him. If you're playing the pick 5s, he's probably your single if you had to use one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The 6 is the class of the field here. Last out running in 84 and getting second. What's he going to get in winning? Who knows? I mean, underneath is the only real thing I could see for talking about this race anymore is the 3 Letty could be an underneath pick. And then also, this isn't a pick, but I just wanted to ask, do you guys remember the one Fenwick? He's only won once in his life. He ran a 25 at some point.
Yeah, he made it Preakness.
He was like 2-1 in the Preakness with only one win in his life, running 40.
He was 13-1, but he was bet as if he was 2-1 because his price should have been 6 times higher, just like 13 is a little more than 6 times 2. Yeah.
Yeah, he went off at 13-1, but I feel like I remember at one point he was a lot lower than that. I think at one point he was less than 10-1. And
he was under 10. He was 7 or 8 at one point. Yep, you're absolutely right.
And he went back up. And since his maiden win, in March of last year, he's run figures in the 40s, couple in the 60s, one in the 70s. He's still only one career win, only twice on the board in his career in 11 races, and he's 9-2 in this spot. This shows you how bad of a race this one is.
Yeah, it really does. I think the only way the horse gets beat, the 6-horse, is if the 2 runs back to some old races, which I don't see happening, or if the 3 runs his last race. And even with that, I think the 6 needs to regress. So this is going to be either a single for me, which makes no sense. I think it's going to be a pass. It's going to be a break. I'm going to separate everything I do in the first 3 races from everything I do in races 5 and beyond. Race 5 is the first stakes race. This is the Suburban Handicap. It's 1.25 miles on the main track. There is no issue with starting the race on the turn. I just need to get that out of the way because there are idiots out there who think that it is a problem. It's not. Okay, that's enough all I'm going to say about that. Jack, the Suburban.
Incredibly frustrating that this is the field that is put together for the Suburban. Like Andrew said, cry me a river about the race starting on a turn. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is look at history. I actually like Charge It for a reason in this race other than no one else in this race can realistically beat him. And that reason is once again, it's my favorite. It's the angle that I go to all the time, move up in trip. I think moving up to the 1.25 miles is something that I've been wanting to see from him for a while. Hasn't been done. The races haven't really been there. This is kind of if it works, great. We thought, or realistically, we should have thought that he can go a mile and a quarter, and this would prove that he could do that. And if he loses, then okay, he's a overhyped Florida Derby runner-up, which happens way too often. Horse runs well in the Florida Derby, gets played way more than they should, and then, or not, I shouldn't single out the Florida Derby. I should single out more accurately Kentucky Derby prep races, runners up in those that get way too much credit for how well that they ran in that race. Folks want to tell me that this horse is best at one turn. Matt Mile didn't really give that indication. I think he's definitely a two-turn horse, and the Oakland Handicap, I think that there were issues that happened there, and the Kentucky Derby was a complete wash. If he doesn't run well in this race, well, then he's not a one-turn graded stakes caliber horse, nor is he a two-turn graded stakes caliber horse. But I'm fascinated for this race because I think it will give clarity on what Charge It actually is.
Charge It. Jalen, you got it from here.
Yeah, I mean, this, like Jack said, is kind of a make-or-break moment for Charge It. He's had so many chances. Some of his losses, there's been excuses. I'm interested to see what he does here. If he doesn't win here, he's basically a toss for me in most graded stakes for the rest of the year. Underneath, I would use Clapton and Unbridled Bomber. They're kind of obvious, too. They've both been running really well this year. As for their standards, if you look at their speed figures, they've been running in 90s, upper 80s and stuff this year, so they've been doing really well. So they would be underneath. I'd say next most likely winner for me might be Clapton. I would say maybe Clapton and then Unbridled Bomber stretching out. But yeah, Charge It.
Yeah, I can't pick Charge It in this race. I'm sorry. I've seen enough of him already. If he wins, I don't care because he's going to pay nothing. So if you miss him, nobody cares. I looked at Linda's horse a little bit, and then I started to question the distance a little bit. I know there was that mile and 3/8 race where he ran third, but he was the favorite. It was a freaking low-level race. Red Run, I was disappointed in the Brooklyn. I thought if he'd show up, he'd run better. I did not play him that day, but I was just kind of waiting and seeing with him, and he kind of started to get outrun around the turn, and then he made up a couple of lengths late, but wasn't anything special. I know the race got wired, so maybe you want to give him another shot. I don't. I think if I want anybody underneath, it is the second greatest guitar player of all time, Eric Clapton, in this race. Number 3, Jaramillo comes in to ride. I just think has the potential to be sitting a little bit closer this time and could get a bit of an edge on the rest of the field in here. And if Charge It doesn't last, he can be the one. So I would definitely use the 3 in here as my top choice. And, of course, if you play any multis, you have to use Charge It. But if you can beat him, you are going to get paid handsomely in the multi-race bets. The 6th race is an allowance on the Widener turf. And I've got some opinions in here, but we're going to give it off to Jack first. Or is this the one you wanted to skip?
Yeah, this was one of my past races.
Okay, Sammy.
I think it comes down to 3 outside horses, 9, 10, 11, the Clements and the Brea horse. I know Andrew had some words for Irad that day, but we won't go into that. Loon Cry, his win last time was good at 7 furlongs. What is this race? 6, right? Correct? You got to include Pratt, especially with Clement at 8-1 with the way he's been riding. And I think he's going to have another big weekend, but we'll get back into that later. For some reason, I found 6 interesting. I don't know why. I just remember the horse. Dylan Davis, maybe he'll be aggressive and send the horse out, getting back on turf. Who knows? But for me, it's the 9, 10, or 11 in this race.
Sorry to disappoint, but just looking at it, I really don't have anything to say about this race, so I'll just agree with Sammy.
Well, guess what, Jalen? I'm going to pretty much agree with Sammy too, so it doesn't really matter. I do like the 6 a little bit in here if Dylan is aggressive with him. Now, Dylan is usually aggressive. However, sometimes he falls back into his old bad habit, and that's when he does his worst stuff. There's no recorded workouts coming into this race. He just has that race at Finger Lakes last time, which was the first race off of about 6 weeks. And then you're running back in just, what is it, 8 plus 3, 11 days. I like that. That tells me that last race was sort of a prep race, and this horse is going to run well. But yeah, the meat and potatoes of this race is out on the outside. I think Loon Cry finally got the job done last time. I know the horse was a short price. I've been following this horse since his first race back in December on the main track. I really, I just hope that this horse runs his usual honest race. If he does, he's gonna, or she, sorry, she's gonna be there. And yeah, I'm not gonna throw out Clement. Second race off a layoff, you're gonna get a good price. You're gonna get Pratt. That's scary. I know outside post isn't great, but doesn't matter as much on the Widener as it does on the inner. That's okay. And weekend rags. Yeah, Irad gave up at the end of that race, and he let Rosario beat him for second. I mean, you could see it right there, and Abreu won the race, so it screwed up his exacta, and I'm sure he was very mad about that. I'm surprised, or I should say, I'm not surprised that Irad is not back on this horse because Abreu is probably very pissed about that. So he doesn't deserve to be back on. Instead, he picks up a horse from Michelle Nevin, who I don't have too much interest in, especially after that last race had an easy pace and just sort of folded in behind weekend rags. So not going to bother with those. I'm going to box the 6, 9, 10, and 11. This is going to be one of those $26.40 races where I'm going to have to spend the money. Race number 7. And a reminder, after this race, Dennis is going to join us starting in the 8th race. So maybe that's your cue, Dennis, to get ready to come in here. We got an allowance back on the main track. And I don't have a lot to say in here. I think Mott's horse is going to be very dangerous. So I'm going to go first and just say that. You guys can take it over the rest of the way.
I'll second that with the 4 Vittorio. Moving on.
I don't know why. I found the one interesting. Listen. Charlie Baker claims this horse. The horse goes from 40,000, goes from 32 to 40, wins, gets 89 buyers, is in the same distance again. And there's gonna be some speed. The 2, the 3 will be out there. Maybe the 6 a little bit. But the 4 is obviously the class, but I gotta take a stab somewhere. Oh, I see Dennis agrees with me. Dennis, let's get one price home. Come on. This might be a little bit of a chalky card, so let's get one home.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really agree with Sammy. I know the 4 is the class of the field, but I kind of wanted to look elsewhere. The top, I shouldn't say the top 3. The 1, 2, and 3 horse are all really interesting to me. The 3 at 15 to 1, interests me on the board a lot in his life. 28 career starts, but he's 15 to 1 with Dylan Davis up. Could be interesting. The 2 majority partner is also very consistent, just like the 1. But I'm going to look to the 1 at 8 to 1 here. And then underneath, I'm going to use the 4 and the 3. But the 4 is class of the field.
And just a quick note about Jalen's horse. I love Tim Hills. I've made money with Tim Hills before. This is a stat I didn't know about him. Now, this is a small sample size because almost everything with Tim Hills is a small sample size. But 180 days, he is 2 for 9 with a positive ROI. This horse also should be noted does turn back, but has also had success sprinting in the past. So I guess all those factors, no net negative there with any of those things. And plus, you're going to get Dylan and you're going to get a good price. So not a bad idea. Jalen. I used to play Dots Dollar. Do I really need to see Linda win? No, thanks. The 8th race, here we go. We're getting into the 2 long turf races, the whole reason that we're going out on Saturday. And I have strong opinions in this race, but it's not my right to go first. We're going to hand this off to the guy who talks about the race shape, who knows about the Europeans. Jack, it's yours. The floor is yours.
Start with my bread and butter. 2 European horses in this race. Technically, the 3 is now under, or has now been purchased by Domestic Connection, so not technically a European own, or not European campaign horse in this race anymore, but that's where all of her previous form comes from, is in Europe. So I'll talk about her, but I want to talk first about the 9 for Oisin Murphy, who I think has some potential to get Wise Guide in this race. Comes out of a dreadful effort behind Tahira in the Guineas at the Curragh. Obviously, Tahira, the best 3-year-old filly at the mile trip in Europe, and really no excuse for Aspen Grove in that spot. Was in touch with the leaders until about 3 furlongs out from the finish in the race, and then she just dropped out and finished behind some horses that are not very talented. So, you know, it's not a case of you can just say, okay, forget Tahira. She had no chance there. She was 14 and a half lengths beaten in that spot. Also beaten in a Guineas trial at Leopardstown. The one thing that I guess you could say is that, and then the race on Arc Weekend at Longchamp. I'll talk about that because I think that might actually be where you can find your silver lining with Aspen Grove. But the previous 2 runs before the Guineas at the Curragh were on heavy or soft going. So that's something she's obviously not going to get this weekend. But I'll get into the race that I said is probably going to be your silver lining. She ran in a race called the Prix Marcel Boussat, which is the Group 1 for 2-year-old fillies on Arc Weekend. And that race was won by Blue ROSEMAN, who is going to win the French Fillies Triple Crown this year. She won the French Guineas and the French Oaks in very fine fashion on both those spots, and she was 5 lengths clear in the Marcel Boussat. And Aspen Grove was about 2 lengths back of second there. Also worth mentioning, Never Ending Story, who was placed in the French Oaks behind Blue ROSEMAN, beaten 4 lengths, but still placed in that spot, was third in that Marcel Boussat, but Never Ending Story did run 7th, beaten 8 lengths at the Curragh last weekend in the Pretty Polly. I don't see it for Aspen Grove, though, like I said, because the form at the Curragh was really bad, or the form from the Curragh was really bad. She lost a race at Leopardstown to a Juddmonte filly for Red Lions named Zarinsk, who doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table there. So I just don't really like the European form. I actually don't think the Americans are as poor in form as you would expect them to be in a garden variety year. So that's Aspen Grove. The 3-horse, I'm going to say her name, Spearling Bag. I'm probably saying that second part wrong and maybe saying the first part wrong. So, but she is the longer of the 2 Grand Motion horses in this race. She does have group stake success, but that race is definitely fool's gold because it was an Aidan O'Brien Invitational at Leopardstown. It was a Group 3 going 1 1/8 miles. And when I say Aidan O'Brien, or I should say O'Brien Family Invitational, because there were 6 horses. 3 horses were trained by Aidan O'Brien. 1 horse was trained by Joseph O'Brien. So you really have, and they were all very lackluster O'Brien horses. And there was also a Godolphin in there to round out the field, who has not run to form as of late. She ran in a Group 2 at Ascot, the Ribblesdale, at the Royal Meeting a couple weeks ago, and she was beaten 13 lengths in that spot. So the 3 has group stake success in Europe, but it is not quality group stake success. 1 start this year was in a Guineas trial, going just a bit farther than 1 1/4 miles, 1 5/16 miles to be specific, at Saint Cloud, but she was well beaten in that spot. 5th, beaten almost 9 lengths. So the 2 European horses, the only reason you go with the 3, I would think, is if you're the type of person like Andrew and you play these kind of trainers coming in with longer price horses, but the European form is just not there for these 2. So Let's take, we come back stateside, take a look at the form that we have. And the race runs through Chad Brown. You've got Prerequisite, who maiden breaking effort into a nice win. And the Wonder again, she is 5-1 right now on the morning line. I think that will certainly come down. I will mention the other Grand Motion filly coming out of a win and the Regret Stakes and 2 graded stakes wins this year. But I personally don't really, if we're going to use the correct terminology here, I don't personally really fancy her in this spot. I'm going to go to Asprey, the other Chad Brown in this spot, 3 for 3 coming out of a stakes win at Pimlico in the Hilltop. And she's going to appreciate the trip. This is not a cross that I am super familiar with, the Quality Road out of the Galileo cross, but we know Quality Road, the trip is just fine. Up the Mare in this situation won a group stakes at the Curragh back in 2012 going this trip. So the move up in trip from the mile to the 1.25 miles here is certainly not going to be an issue for Asprey. Pratt stays on. Sammy was kind of talking about that in the preliminaries of this, and I'll not steal that point from Sammy, but I think she'll be shorter, or I should say, I think she'll be longer than her stablemate, probably somewhere around the third choice. I think these 2 Chad Browns are going to come down, but it's a question of how much they're going to come down, because you do have graded stakes winners domestically in the 1 and the 4 here. So I'm fascinated to see how this race is going to play out. I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed with the contingent that's coming over from overseas for this race, but I know that that's not everybody's bread and butter, and a race where Americans have a very real chance to win is certainly not something that I'm sure Andrew definitely and other people are too disappointed about.
I'm with Jack here. Like I said, I've actually been waiting for this horse to run. I didn't know where she was going to show up. I actually had her on Pimlico Day, but I've been waiting for her to run. And like what Jack referred to, my point is, Pratt had a choice here, and he gets on this horse because that wasn't. I don't know if you guys been noticing, but Pratt is starting to ride a first call for Chad again. I don't know if anyone's been noticing that. I have noticed. I'm sure Andrew's noticed, and I'm sure he's having a bunch of joy noticing that. But Asprey, she beat that Clement horse, who I think is pretty good. She didn't come back to run well in the Wild Applause, but that's fine. Joelle's on her. You could always cross out a Joelle effort. But if you look at this horse's buyers, you don't always look at buyers, but she's improved. Every start, 60, 72, 87. And she was going a mile last time, and she was wide, too. She was wide on the turn. Her kick was just boom, just like that. She's going out to 1.25 miles. I mean, if I could pick any trainer in the world, I would pick Chad Brown. Please give me Chad Brown. 6-1. I'm all in. Hopefully she can stay in a good trip, and if she takes one more step up, she's gonna be tough. I really do believe she's gonna be tough.
Jalen.
Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, 6-1, undefeated, 3 for 3. That sounds perfect. Osprey is gonna be my pick here, like Sammy, like Jack said. Osprey seems really good. Underneath, I'm kind of between. I might just go to the 4 over the 1 just for the sake of the price. And then the 5 looks interesting underneath too, with some speed down towards the inside. But those are going to be my 3.
And with that said, I'd like to introduce the 4th guest on this show, and that's Mr. Dennis Trusty. Come on in here, Dennis.
Everybody. So for this race, this is the Belmont Oaks, and I agree with what everybody basically said here, right? And I think for me, I like the 4, Papillo. I guess that's how you pronounce the horse's name. And just has some okay runs. Churchill was decent. I really like the run back at Keeneland, but I'm gonna talk about a horse nobody has talked about so far, really. What's your thoughts on the 2?
I mean, she got Jose on, so
Yeah.
she lost to Parnick too. Isn't that a Clement horse? Am I tripping?
That's the
Come
horse.
on.
Yeah, that's the horse who in that race at Delaware got a little bit of traffic trouble coming late
Oh,
last
she's the one
weekend.
that lost to that motion horse
Mhm.
that I had, right? She's the one.
She was the one. Yeah, she finished third
Yeah.
to Parnak.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
and the
for
reason
older
why I
too.
like the two, though, the reason why I like the two is since the horse stepped on turf has been so much better, and even got a rod to ride the first time ever on turf at 18-1, and then come back with Luis Saez and then Jose Ortiz as well, and sticks with Jose in this big spot. I think could run a pretty big race, and
I'll let you continue. Yeah.
um. And that's just the two horses I really like. I'm gonna use the one defensively just in case, but I like the 4 and the 2.
To Dennis's point here, the thing with Strikingly Spun is if Jose can get this horse out of here, and New York riders, they go like 27-3, like harness horses. If he can get this horse out of here and she can be right near the lead, she might actually hold for a placing. Or you never know with Joe Sharkey. He has crazy performances. Who knows what he puts in those horses? But that's a different story. I mean, 15-1, Dennis, you can't go wrong. I'm not gonna lie to you. Never can go wrong. I'm not gonna deter you from your pick. I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, I kind of like it a little bit. That's a good pick. No.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it's my turn in this race. Yeah, I got strong opinions in both the mile and a quarter turf races, and my opinion in this race is that I don't think Chad Brown is going to lose. He's got the speed horse, he's got the closer. Prefer the closer because I feel like this pace might be a little bit faster than your normal average 26 flat opening quarter mile. So I'm going to favor the 7. I'm going to favor Pratt, but prerequisite can absolutely those were not BS fractions last time. Those were legitimate fractions, and that horse was being pressed for part of that race, only a half length to the next horse. So that's nothing to sneeze at right there. So I'm gonna pick those two on top, no doubt about it. And then I'm gonna put the two motion horses second and third. I'm just gonna keep this really simple. The one horse, I guess, deserves to be. I wouldn't say deserves to be the favorite, really, but you can understand why the horse is listed as the favorite. People like ones. I like ones too. I just happen to like a couple horses more. And the 3 horse, I'm just going off a little hunch here. This is the other Grand Motion horse coming in from overseas. You heard what Jack said already. But there was another horse who didn't look so good 5 years ago in this race named The Way I Am for Grand Motion, who went off at 11-1. And Velasquez gave a picture perfect ride up the fence to get second at 11-1. So I'm going to throw that hunch in there and throw this horse in the boxes. I'm going to try and beat the 4. I'm going to try and beat the 6. I think that was an abnormally good race last time from the 6. I don't know if the horse can repeat it. And I'm going to throw out the 9, try and beat the Euro in here. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to move on to the 9th, and we've got an allowance that's in between the two big races here. And I guess I'll let Jack start off with this one.
Do this to myself because I hate myself and I enjoy losing. So Summer is a horse that I have picked on a couple of occasions, and like I said, I hate myself and I enjoy losing. So we're gonna enjoy losing another time when Joel inevitably does something stupid with the horse that's coming out of a couple of decent allowance placings in his past couple of races.
Great pick, Jack.
I was with Jack here, but let me get to another point. Listen, everyone. How much Andrew cares for replacing should be how much these jockeys care for replacing. That's all I'm gonna say. Because he does kind of have a point. Also, do you think O'Shea Murphy will actually ride this race, or is he just booked?
No, he'll ride it if he took the time to get a mount in this race. He'll ride it.
Jack, are we out of it for picking Joel Rosario in a turf sprint, or are we out of our minds?
Hey, listen, I got to take one last opportunity to hate myself after this happens. So,
because that horse got caught the wire by another Belmont horse. I think he was the entry that he was the entry that day, and Eric Consell gave a beautiful ride, which Eric Consell did not give a beautiful ride in one of the stakes the other weekend. Don't even get me started on that. But yeah, this horse 5-1 is really good value. But we got to look at another horse too, Chad Brown. But the thing about this Chad Brown horse is she's coming off a Grade 1 placing, but she hasn't ran in a while. And she lost to Oxymore. Who knows where that horse has been? Do you guys know where Oxymore has been these last 4 years or year?
No idea.
Neither. I mean, Inflated Nation is also to take a look at, but I think this horse won 7 furlongs to a mile. So I'll roll with Joel Rosario. Probably hate myself after the race, or love myself after the race, but I'll leave it to Jalen now.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pick the horse that lost to Oxymore. I'm gonna go with the 8 here, Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt at 9-2. Yeah, that race with Oxymore was kind of an abnormal race placing-wise, quality-wise, and also speed figure-wise for Appraise, who won on debut with a 74, winning by a head over Inflation Nation, who was in this race. And that was going 5.5. They came back, finished 4th, beaten 2 lengths with a 64, went down by 10 points there, losing to Oxymore, None Hudson, and Private Creed. You see in the Trackman's comment there was a light bump, went inside, didn't really work out. Light bump, inside, outside, 3 wide, didn't work out. Then comes back a month later in that Grade 1 summer stakes that Sammy mentioned, going a mile at Woodbine. So from 5.5 to a mile, and gets up late to finish 2nd there. Was absolutely destroyed by Mysterious Night. Who knows where that horse has been? I remember that horse looked really good, and I haven't heard of the horse since. But
he ran in the Craven a few weeks ago. Didn't run well and has since been gelded.
Well, maybe Mysterious Night isn't as good as he looked then, but still, getting a Grade 1 placing there, beat some nice horses, obviously, to be in a Grade 1. How nice they were is debatable. But Appraise can, one going 5.5, 2nd in a Grade 1 going a mile. I think the cut back to 7 furlongs is just what this horse needs. I mean, I don't think Chad Brown would put Appraise here if he didn't think that Appraise was ready. Because, looking around, this is kind of a tough race. There is some good horses here. But I'll take Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt at 9-2 off the layoff.
Well, he's got to run somewhere. Think about that, too.
I'm going to take... you're going, Dennis? I thought you kind of accelerated there. No, go ahead.
No. So for this race, I'm taking the, I'm going to say one horse I like and one horse I don't. I like the 11 Inflation Nation. Has never really ran a bad race. No matter the distance. I know there was some distance worries about can this horse go this short or whatever. And has always been bet pretty decently. And a horse that I don't like is the 8 Appraise. I'm not a fan of the 8 off this layoff. I think now maybe at Saratoga I could play this horse or say, yeah, I think this horse is worth it. I think this horse might be the most talented horse in the field. But for today, I think that the 11 Inflation Nation is where I want to be, and Appraise is where I do not want to be.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take a little bit of a shot with a horse that no one's mentioned yet in this race, and that's the 2 Elusive Edge. So Elusive Edge was in that race with Bold Journey and Sousa Summer last time. I was actually at this race. This horse had to go 21-3, 44-2 on the lead, was sent out there with Alvarado. I think the situation's going to be a little bit different today. This race is 7 furlongs, which on paper you say, oh, that's worse. Well, generally in 7 furlong races, the paces are slower. You're going to get a better price than with Sousa Summer. And in my opinion, yeah, you have a better jockey. So I'm going to take the 2 Elusive Edge on top in this race. I'm going to box this horse with the Chad off the layoff, who I don't love, but Chad is Chad, and he's also Chad off the layoff is fantastic. 30% off 180 plus days. And Inflation Nation, I think Inflation Nation's the horse to beat in here. I know he's only won once in his life, but he still keeps showing up and running good races all the time. So I'm going to box the 2, 8, and 11. If I had given out picks in order, I would pick the race 2, 11, 8. So I'm going to keep things simple with a little Chad, a little Clement, and then plenty of elusive edge. Here we go, the 10th race, the featured Belmont Derby. Jack, let's go.
Well, it's actually the Belmont Derby because we're running on a real surface. But anyway, that aside, with my bread and butter as usual. This time we have two European horses that actually, on paper, have somewhat of a chance, and one of them actually has a real good chance. And I'll get into the Foxes second, but I want to quickly mention Silver Knot. I think the Breeders' Cup form looks a lot better on paper than it actually is. Victoria Road has been injured since then. He has been injured since the Breeders' Cup, so we did not see him on the French Derby trail. And Silver Knot has really not stepped forward from 2, and his form at 2 was shaky at best. He was beaten by 5 1/4 lengths by Chaldean, the Guineas winner of the Champagne, not the Belmont Champagne, the Doncaster Champagne, on the Ledger weekend last year. And he was third in that race. There were only 3 horses, though, beaten 5 lengths by Chaldean. Next start won the autumn at Newmarket, going the mile trip, where he beat Epictetus, who is a horse that ran a pretty good race behind the dual Derby winner Augusta Rodin in his subsequent start, which was in the Verdun Futurity at Doncaster. But Epictetus since then did win. I should say, before I get to the bad form, did win the Blue Riband trial, which is one of the very early trials for the Epsom Derby over there. But since then, incredibly disappointing in his 3 races. Not beaten all that far in the Dante at York, which was the race that was won by the Foxes. I'll get to that. But 5th beaten 8 lengths in the French Derby at Chantilly, and then 13th beaten 10 lengths in a 1 1/4 Group 3 at the Royal Meeting a couple weeks ago. So Silver Knot's European form is not great. It doesn't really look that good last year. And then you take a look at what he did this year. Well beaten in the Guineas. 11th beaten 17.5 lengths by Chaldean, the winner. He was ahead Augusta Rodin in the Guineas, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot because Augusta Rodin had 3 major factors going against him in that race. We're not previewing Augusta Rodin, so I don't really need to go into those. But Augusta Rodin was not ready that day, and him beaten 17 lengths doesn't really have a whole lot of positive to it anyway. And then beaten last time by Farbridge and one of Chad Brown's horses in this spot in the Belmont Derby anyway. So I rest my case on Silver Knot. Charlie Appleby has also had a dreadful year this year. Modern Games is winning the Lockhinge a couple months ago is really one of the only bright spots. It was a stat that was going around during Royal Ascot. Charlie Appleby and Godolphin in general did not have a win at the Royal Meeting, and it's been a very long stretch of bad runs from horses that on paper don't look, or at least like from a pedigree standpoint on paper in that aspect, don't really look all that bad. William Buick also isn't in to ride, but that makes sense. If anyone's wondering why it's Richard Mullen and not William Buick gets to ride Emily Upjohn in the Eclipse this weekend because Frankie Dettori is serving about 2 weeks worth of suspensions from Royal Ascot. So Richard Mullen gets the opportunity to ride the Belmont Derby. I really think it's going to make a whole lot of difference for him. Silver Knot's not bad in the United States, but there are 2 horses as established by the Pennine Ridge that are better than him. Now, the Foxes is the real big horse that I want to get into. And I mentioned he won the Dante at York, which is one of the biggest trials for the Epsom Derby. That's his big race that I would point to, obviously, as his best form. I'll get to the stuff that he did before that. Lost by just over a length at Newmarket in the Craven to Indestructible, who was a potential to come over here, ultimately did not. The mile's a bit too short for him, so I can forgive him for that, and especially because he won at the 1 1/4 trip in the Dante. Two nice wins, including a win in the Royal Lodge at Newmarket, which is the mile prep for the 2-year-old, or which is the mile trial for the 2-year-olds at Newmarket. The Group 1 for the 2-year-old colts over there is run at 7 furlongs and not a mile. So that was the race for horses that will probably do their best running in those middle distance type races. The Dante is the big race that I think a lot of people are going to look to him. That, and then obviously the Epsom Derby. But I think really the Dante is the race that's going to take the legitimacy for him here. If this had been a week ago, I would have said the Foxes easily no shot, because he was a neck in front of White Birch, who ran a excellent race in the Epsom Derby. He was beaten 5 1/4 lengths by Augusta Rodin and King of Steel, but those are the two best 3-year-olds in Europe. And who knows? We'll see how the rest of we'll see how the next month pans out. Those could be the two best horses at the 1.25-mile trip, period, in Europe. So it was a very good run for him at Epsom in the Epsom Derby. But he followed it up with a really, really bad effort in the Irish Derby last week, and he was eighth. He was last in that race, beaten 18.5 lengths. And that has really made me wonder, okay, is the Foxes really that good? And it got me to look further at the form from the Dante. Passenger was a horse who was third in there. He dead heated with Continuous, who was an Aidan O'Brien horse who was in that Ascot Derby that was won by King of Steel. But Passenger was a Sir Michael Stout horse that I really liked going forward on the Derby trial. Did not move forward. Epictetus, I mentioned him already. He wasn't too far behind there. So the form from the Dante, I did it once as a joke at the beginning, and now since I'm talking about Epsom, I'm going to slip it in with the American race. But he was close to the front at Epsom, and being near the front at Epsom is a very difficult thing to do. And he also stumbled, by the way, at the beginning of the start, or at the beginning of the Epsom Derby. So that's something that you can give him, give him a slight pass for that. And he was only beaten 8.25 lengths. And considering that Augusta Rodin and King of Steel were about 5 lengths clear of the third place horse, not really that bad of an effort, all things considered. I'm going to look away from the Foxes because I don't think that this is a horse that is, especially given the effort that White Birch had. If White Birch had run better in the Irish Derby last weekend, my opinion would be different. But I'm going to take the standpoint of this is not a horse that's going to just come to the United States and have an auto victory. It's possible, but I think it's about 50-50. And I like my chances with some other horses in this spot, and primarily the 5 Bar Bridge, who is freed from the anchor that was aboard him in the past couple of races. First 2 wins of his career, very, very nice efforts for him, was privately purchased out of that second race by the current Connections LSU stables and moved to Todd Pletcher. Dreadful ride in the American turf, dreadful ride in the Pennine Ridge by one Joel Rosario. Jose Ortiz gets up on him now, and this is a horse that is tried and true 1.25 mile American turf special. He's an English Channel out of a Kitten's Joy mare. Fit Pitcher is the name of the mare, but that Kitten's Joy English Channel, or Flip It English Channel Kitten's Joy, is tried and true American turf. And this is a horse that I thought was really the goods after his first couple of wins. I thought that Joel Rosario did not really do a great job with him in the past couple of races. Gets Jose Ortiz here. Massive, massive improvement. I'm really locked in on him, and that's not to take nothing away from the 8 here, who I'm sure will be mentioned 3 for 3 coming out of a win in that Pennine Ridge, but I already mentioned my case on that. So, and then I'll leave the floor for others to get into some of the horses underneath here, but I really like Far Bridge. And my other big stand in this race is that the Foxes isn't going to be the winner.
I'm up. Any horse that comes overseas that ran a credible race in the Epsom Derby. I'm calling it the Epsom Derby still. They can call it the Kazoo Derby, whatever they want. He obviously has to be respected. Facing 2, he lost. King of Steel came back to dominate in Augusta Rodin, came back to win the Irish Derby, which I think didn't another O'Brien horse break down, but that's a different story. You obviously have to respect any Euro horse that comes to America. Like Jack pointed with Silver Knot, how William Buick did not come over to ride. Richard Mullins fine. He's a good rider. He can get the job done, but I don't know if he could. For me here, I'm going with redistricting. I've picked Farbridge every time he's ran, but I'm sure he's going to win now. You know how the drill works. Thank God Joel is off that horse. this horse should have won the American Turf and the Penina race, but he's clueless like always. I mean, but sometimes he can nail you at the wire. You never know, like I've been saying. But redistricting, the thing with this horse is, when's the last time Chad Brown has ever put a horse in from a maiden special weight to a grade 1? First of all, he said this horse is going to go from maiden to an allowance to the Saratoga Derby. That plan was scratched, and this horse shows up here. That tells me that something switched, and that this horse must be pretty good. I mean, I don't know about you guys. You guys can chime in, but does Calic remind you of Emmanuel at all?
Hang on, before anyone else jumps in, you posed a rhetorical question, but I'm going to give it with a real answer. Now, the horse did have an allowance race too, but Chad Brown did this a couple of years ago in the Belmont Oaks with Higher Truth, and she ran third there. So that's a very good point that you bring up with redistricting.
She was second.
She was second in the Saratoga. She was third in the.
Didn't he run 1-2? I thought he ran 1-2.
All right, let me check this.
No, it was that was the 2021 Belmont Oaks. Last year, I think.
Oh, Belmont Oaks. I thought you were talking about the Jockey Club Oaks. Okay.
Yeah, Higher Truth ran third, and she ran second in the Oaks and second in the race at Belmont.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But does anyone else see that comparison, or is that just me?
Yes, I do. And now
Yeah.
Emmanuel used to go to the lead. Now he doesn't for some reason. I'll get into this horse when I talk about him. But yes, I see the comparison.
But back to Farbridge. Farbridge, he should have won his last 2 races. The one horse that's low in the morning line that I feel like no one's going to talk about, which I really don't like him, but you kind of have to respect him, is Web Slinger. I mean, he's a little classy. I mean, I just don't see it, but he deserves to be respected. But a horse that I do like that I think can get a price is the Wizard of Westwood. John Velasquez, didn't he do this a couple years ago? Or I think it was, anyways. There was a horse that chipped in that was on the lead and just hung for the third at like big odds. I don't remember the horse's name. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Maybe Jack could know who I'm talking about. But I feel like that could be this type of horse. But I'm all in on redistricting. I don't think 8-1's gonna hold because I think he's gonna be the wise guy horse. But I'll take a swing with him. I'm sure Farbridge is gonna win, just because I'm not picking him here. But I'll take Chad here.
I agree with Sammy, actually. I mean, as I often do. I'm going to go redistricting on top. He was one that really caught my eye. Chad Brown, Flavian, 8-1, coming in this race off of just one start. This horse has to be doing amazing for Chad Brown to put him in here. So he's going to be my top pick. Farbridge, I'm going to use underneath. Finally getting rid of Joel Rosario, gets Jose Ortiz up. For my third pick, I'm not going to say third pick. I want to throw a couple horses out there. Like Sammy mentioned, Web Slinger, Boppio, and then I'll bomb Cyber Ninja. So, there's going to be a few horses that I might use for third, but I'm going to go redistricting over Farbridge.
I guess I'm going to go with Why Am I Here? I mean, wow. That was basically everything that I could have said with this race. I mean, in a good way. 5 Farbridge, my top pick. Jockey change helps a little bit. I don't think that helps as much as just stretching out to a farther distance. And I think this type of group will take turns winning. Like somebody will win one race and somebody will win the next, and then they switch back and forth until somebody shows that they're so much better. And it feels like it's Farbridge's turn to do that. And then the next horse I like for second is the 10, redistricting, very talented on debut. Curious why, but I understand why. Irod does not take this horse back. And I mean, you all said everything that there is to say with that horse as well. Was bet down heavy favorite. I think that this horse is just, might be the most talented horse in Brown's Barn. And the reason why I say that is because the horse is a gelding and is going into a grade 1. There's obviously, and won by a ton, And then last thing I'll say is the 8 Calic might be a good horse, but might not want to go this far. Could hold on for something underneath. That's basically all I got for the Belmont Derby.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the video, at least the race of broken records here. I think this is Farbridge's race to lose. I've loved this horse. Let me tell you, Christophe Clement got a bad fucking deal. He really did. He's one of the best turf trainers, one of the best trainers around. He should still have this horse. I don't care about the purchase. To not, if I have a turf horse, I'd want him in Clement's barn, not Pletcher's barn. Not to take anything away from Pletcher, but Christophe is I call him the French connection, the French magician, whatever you want to call him. That's who he is. I want him to train my horse. That being said, he's still the same horse. He hasn't regressed under Pletcher. I love this horse. Everybody talked about the rides already. I don't need to repeat that. This horse is going to be freaking kicking in late. Love him, absolutely. Going to use redistricting second. Also with a closing kick. Only the second start, though. I did have this horse first time. That's not saying a lot because he was 2-1, but I did put a lot of money on him. Was very impressed with that close. Calic for third to hold up front. And I'll throw in the European for insurance fourth. So that's going to be 5, 10, 8, 11 for me in the Belmont Derby. Gonna have to maybe play $2 on Clement's real horse that the dead weight is riding just for the hell of it, but I can't really include him in here. I don't think he's up to snuff at all, especially with the short prices he's been and not really delivering. The victory ride to me did not come up as a great race. Go ahead, guys. I'm going to breeze through this one quick.
I'm gonna breeze through it too, or breeze through it quickly too. I'm gonna go with I know she's not the morning line favorite, but with Unoriginal Not Fun, red carpet ready. 3 races at sprint trips, in stakes at sprint trips, shows that she's a proper sprinter. What else is there to say? Moving on.
I actually disagree with that, Andrew. I think this field came up very strong. You have Chaz horse, you have the undefeated Cox horse. Vava's ran some decent races. Maple Leaf Mel's in the field. Then you got the Linda Rice horse who showed decent races, and then you got Red Carpet Ready. But to me, this race came up simple to me. It's Maple Leaf Mel's race. She can go as quick as she wants. This horse is talented, man. Probably is she New York bred or she's not? I think she is, right?
Yeah, she
She's
is.
definitely
She is
one,
the New
she's
York
one
bred.
of the one of the most talented New York breds I've seen in a while. I really do believe that. Don't be concerned of the training switch. That was Jeremiah Engelhardt's former assistant. I guess she is trading now, so that's why she got moved. But I think this is a race to lose. She's that good. I think she wins here. She'll obviously go to the test, but I think she's gonna be tough. Red Carpet Ready. I don't like that. I don't like how Money's Gold came back to run. I know that might have been a little too far, but some things you don't like to see. And when they scratched that horse out of that one race, she didn't come back to run it a couple days later, which didn't make any sense to me. I'll take Maple Leaf Mel here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Maple Leaf Mel is the most talented horse in the field and could potentially be one of the most talented 3-year-old fillies out there. Definitely in the sprinting division, possibly just in general. I mean, she's never really been tested in her career. She can go as fast as she wants, as long as she's sprinting, and still win. I mean, look at the Trackman's comments. All of them end with handily, edged clear, handily, never asked, She's never been challenged. I'm interested to see how she does first start with Melanie Giddings, who Maple Leaf Mel is named for. Fun fact, it's Melanie Giddings, who, assistant to Jeremiah Engelhardt, like Sammy says, now goes out and trains on her own. Maple Leaf Mel is transferred to her. So it's going to be interesting to see. Her and Joelle Rosario, I think they're the most talented in the field. I think she should romp here by 2-3 lengths, which isn't really romp, but easy 2-3 lengths. Second, I'm going to go with Red Carpet Ready, toppling Money's Gold last out. Looked like she might be a little bit of a flop in the Devona Dale. Came back, ran really well in the 8 bells to beat Money's Gold, who at the time was undefeated. I mean, do you remember when she won that race at Tampa by 17 lengths, sub 109? You know, Money's Gold is a really good horse. Red Carpet Ready beat her. Money's Gold comes back, loses again. Which might not bode well, but it could also be, like Sammy said, that it was too far. Maybe that she's coming off of the first defeat of her career. So I'm going to go Maple Leaf Mel over Red Carpet Ready.
So I'll take you back to November, cold Kentucky November, and there was word out from a bunch of people online that Brad Cox was debuting a monster, that she was the next best thing ever, and Blood Horse was out there. I remember watching the Churchill Downs actual president, the president CEO of Churchill, coming down to the rail when she ran. And Dazzling Blue is her name. That's the number 2 horse here. And she has been awesome ever since. Perfect 3 for 3. And I think it's a shame she can't stretch out. It's kind of proven at this point she does not want to go further than 6. But that last race was pretty good. And really, when she broke, you could have heard when she broke last time, because that was a bad break. She blitzed up and took over and dominated that field. She does struggle breaking a little bit, but she does recover very well. I like the 2 Dazzling Blue. I'm gonna keep riding that train until it stops. Interesting horse here for me is the 3 Have. I guess that's how you pronounce that one.
I
Vava?
think it's fine, right?
Vava.
Okay, Vava. There you go. But all the sprint races have been good, besides debut, where the horse was bumped after the start and 6 wide, and every other sprint race after that was first or second. So I think that horse is worth a little bit of a chance. And Red Carpet Ready, I don't really want to use the horse, but if it's between the 5 and the 8, I'd rather go with the 8, who can sit just behind the 5. And I think that Dazzling Blue might cook the 5, maybe, if they go out dueling. So 2-3-8 for me.
I'm gonna have to disagree with the 2 there for 2 reasons. If the 2 breaks bad, it's all over. Maple Leaf Mel gets to lead easily. And I don't think that the 2 would cook the 5 if you look at how fast the 2's gone. Yeah, one race 21 and 2, 44 and 4 last out. Maple Leaf Mel has gone that fast too and won by 7 lengths. So that's one thing, and then also the 2 is, I think, the only horse in the field that has not ever hit even an 80 buyer. So that's what I'm gonna say about the 2.
Look, I said this race wasn't that interesting. I didn't say it was a bad race. It's not that interesting to me because I don't see anyone to me that jumps out that I'm begging to bet in here. I'm going to mention a horse quickly that nobody's mentioned at all, and that's the 7 Topsy. I feel like if the 5 and the 2 bang it out up front, this is who I want coming late at a price. This is the horse who I believe has gotten the closest to Maple Leaf Mel in the past. Yes, it is. This is the horse. So I feel like you're going to get every bit of that 12 to 1. They're just going to dismiss this horse, especially off that last race where she was the favorite. Maybe didn't like the sloppy track. It was first time over a sloppy track. I'm going to give this horse a chance in here to be involved in the exotics for sure in this race. I don't know how I'm going to pick the race or use this horse, but I'm going to use this horse somehow in the boxes and also use in some doubles into and out of for trying to beat the favorites in here if they go too fast up front. They do have an extra furlong to contend with, so that's important to know as well. And the maiden claimer last race on the inner turf. Jack, anybody?
I'm gonna go with pardon me, I don't have the number on it. The 5 for Horatio DePaz and Saez, just trying to find some angle. Unplaced in first career start last time on May 20th at Belmont. That was going 6 on dirt, switches to 6 furlongs on turf here. I'm going to try with that with the 5 in this spot.
This race didn't come up too interesting. I mean, it's a maiden claimer on the turf. If Irad's horse handles the turf, that horse is definitely the horse to beat. But kind of like Jackson a little bit. I always like to look for horses that drop from a maiden specialty to a maiden claiming, going on the turf, sprinting, which they've been doing, always runs well. Horacio DePaz has been on fire recently. I think he had a couple winners last weekend. If I think this horse shows speed on the dirt, he's gonna probably show speed on the turf. If Size gets his horse out there, he could run well. And 9-2, that won't hold. Probably go down to like 7-2. But I think it's either the 2 or the 5 here.
I don't know if I really have a pick here. This race it really doesn't interest me. I don't think there's anyone really good here. I mean, I guess I'll just agree with Jack and Sammy.
Dennis, I didn't
And
know
in
if
the
you were doing
last
the 12.
race,
You doing it?
yeah, here. You ready? The
Yeah.
4. It's not my fault. It is your fault if you bet this race. Number 1, screw loose. You'd have to have a screw loose in order to bet this race. And 8, you reap what you sow. You get what you deserve if you bet this race. 418. That's not my picks. I'm not playing this race. But yeah, there you go.
All right. Now, here's the thing. This could be a very important race because I could be down to 250 after this race, so I'm going to need something to play. And I'm going to go to the 2 first-time starters that are towards the outside. 1 for Linda Rice, Jose Ortiz. Linda's horses generally first out is not when you want them, but in a crap field like this, anything's possible. And then George Weaver, he got hot at one point with these turf sprints. Then he got cold again. Then he had a winner the other day. So I'm going to include that horse too. I know it's the outside post, but in a field this bad, I don't know if I can worry about the post that much and losing ground. I just have to worry about who's actually good in here. And to me, nobody who's run is any good in here. So I'm going to use the 2 firsters toward the outside because I am probably going to be down multiple hundreds of dollars into this race, and I'm going to have to try and bail myself out because I'm a pessimist, and that's what I think. So that's
Andrew,
it for me. What?
you're wrong on the George Weaver angles. George Weaver wins with this angle with George Weaver. I don't know if you guys been noticing, but I'm gonna give you guys a little insight. To everyone's watching.
I
To
didn't
everyone.
mention an angle with him. I
No, I'm
just,
mentioning an angle. I'm mentioning an angle.
yeah. No, I'm not wrong, though. He is pretty good with
No.
first-time starters. I know he is.
No, but it's George Weaver when he has 2-year-olds that are sprinting first time with Eric Consell, just unload the bank account on them. 2-year-olds though. What does he hit? 12-1, 20-1, 4-1. It doesn't miss. But I don't even know where Eric Consell is at this point. I think he's taking a break, right?
He's starting up again at Saratoga, I believe. Also, one more thing, I like the way Castellano's been riding the turf sprints, so that's another thing to throw in there.
Castellano's confidence right now is through the roof. You
Yeah,
could tell it too.
really is. That's all I got, guys. Does anybody else want to mention anything throughout this card?
I wish I was there, but I'll be there. I'll basically see the same kind of races for Saratoga, Derby, and Oaks, so it's all good. I just won't see Jack, which, I mean, I'll catch Jack around one time at the track, hopefully. You know?
Yeah, I didn't know if we were going to get into this, but the opportunity presented itself. So I did just want to say that, Andrew, I've been a regular on this program for the better part of 3 years. So I really appreciate having been able to talk horses with you on so many occasions, also having gotten to know you a lot better than just some person that I converse with on an occasional basis with horses, been able to go to the track with you on several occasions, as we are going to do on Sunday. So it's been, I have really enjoyed being able to have come on your show, have had you on Racing Rundown during the course of Racing Rundown, all of that sentimental stuff. I wanted to mention that, since I wasn't sure if there was an opportunity to get into this, but I'm taking that opportunity now. I very much appreciate and have thoroughly enjoyed everything that we have done in racing together. And we still do have one afternoon before things change.
Jack, I want to thank you for saying that, and it almost kind of caught me off guard because I knew when we started this video, and then I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, this will be the last show on my channel that Jack is on, where he's still the producer of Racing Rundown. So, Jack, it's been a pleasure having you on these shows. You're the frickin' man. You're very smart. It's been great to have you, and more important than that, it's great to be your friend. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being a part of this. Please go check out what is left of Racing Rundown if you guys get a chance. It is linked down in the description below.
It's not
With
really
that,
a whole lot,
I
sorry, it's
know
not really a
because
whole
of
lot
the
left, unfortunately, of Racing Rundown, because I did discontinue I did discontinue the service that we have for hosting our website, given that Racing Rundown is going to be ending around Labor Day. So unfortunately, the episode archive is no longer there. So as the last time I was here, the show went all the way back to the episodes that we had to the very beginning of the show. It only goes back to April, but whatever is still there, there is still going to be a few more things. I spoke with my good friend Jay Privman this week. One of the last things that we're going to do, I'm going to have something similar to that, and then maybe a couple more episodes, including our farewell episode. So Racing Rundown's not quite over, but it's coming to an end, and at least in terms of the Racing Rundown era, this is the last time that I will be on this channel as producer of Racing Rundown. I never close the door on anything, so I'm not going to say it'll never happen, but well, let's just say it's unlikely that I will be on another of these, but we never say never, so it's not impossible that I will be back. But I did want to mention that, Andrew.
Thank you, Jack. And like I said, great to be a friend of yours, and great to be a friend of everybody who was on here today. Dennis, Jalen, do you guys have anything else to say? It was great to hear that you guys got to hang out last weekend. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. We went to Churchill, watched a simulcast of the Stephen Foster, and I just want to say, Jack, it was great to be on here for your last show here.
I'll chime in too. Me and Jack go all the way back, almost as long as Andrew. Me and Jack.
No, longer than Andrew. I've known you longer than I've known Andrew.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm talking about I've known Andrew since 2018. I've known you since 2019. Jack has put a lot of work into his content. It's a shame he won't. It's a shame he won't be producing anymore. But me and Jack will always stay in touch. We'll still talk racing. We'll mainly talk about baseball and how the Dodgers can't pitch, or the Phillies can't pitch, but or even the Mets. I mean, we all can't pitch, right?
Yeah, just shit on
Take
the
advantage.
Mets. Just shit on the Mets for me. That's fine.
But
I never liked Jack. No, I'm kidding.
No,
I never liked
on-
you, Dennis.
Well, it's good to be on your last one of these. It's a shame, like you said too, with all that, but I mean, you're smart. You'll figure out everything.
All right, and with that said, everybody, that is going to be the end of the last video for the Belmont Park Spring Summer Meet. For me, it definitely has not been as successful as last year when I brought back almost $1,000 in profit. That is not happening this time for sure. No matter what happens on Saturday,
maybe you can get a bomb or a pick 5 in, Andrew.
it would take double my best day just to break even for the meet, and that's not going to happen. So we're really going to have to just do the best we can. Of course, this is going to be a sad weekend. It is the last time we're going to see Belmont this year for another 10 months, and this is the penultimate season of Belmont. as it is now, the good way,
Wait, when are
the
they
way the
doing
grandstand
construction?
is now.
When
After,
2024 Belmont next year?
yeah,
What is it gonna look like?
after I don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to talk about it at all. I wrote an article about it earlier this year. You could check that out on the One Turn Route website, which is linked in the description. I drew civil engineering diagrams to explain that of what I would do to rebuild it if it came to that. And I also made a video 2.5 years ago, actually to the day, 2.5 years ago to the day today, begging Naira to not do it, but it is happening. So one more year after this of beautiful Belmont Park before the unknown sets in. Let's enjoy it while we can. Um, and as far as the future of the channel this summer, I really don't know what the hell's going to happen. Maybe I'll do a couple things for Saratoga. Maybe I won't. I do want to get another episode of One Turn Route out, the show on Spotify, and that comes up on here. I'm going to probably talk about something negative, but there are a lot of negative things to talk about, unfortunately. So it's probably going to be something bad that I feel needs to get attention. But for this weekend, we'll keep it positive. Sammy,
Yeah.
Jack, Dennis, Jalen, thank you all so much for coming. And more importantly than anything else, thank you to anyone who watched this live stream, especially if you made it all the way through. God bless you. And I'm going to shut up now. We're going to shut up now, but mostly me. Pay your bills first, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Have a great time this weekend at beautiful Belmont Park.